Alright, everybody, welcome back to the Dank NASCAR download. It's your boy, G4 Stemp, Dank NASCAR Memes, back at it again with episode 8 of the download. We're just about 20% through the season. I think we're more than a fifth of the way through the season. We just had race number 8. We just had our first repeat winner of the season, William Byron at Martinsville. So, yeah, just figured it would be time to put in a little podcast episode. I think I haven't recorded since like the 4th race of the season or something, or whenever it was after Alex Bowman won Vegas. I think that was race number 4. So yeah, just to be talking about main storylines during the season, some things that I have noticed, especially over the past couple weeks. So yeah, let's get right to it. I think one of the biggest overlying storylines of this season have been the struggles for Toyota, and especially Joe Gibbs Racing. Toyota's engines or setups, not sure which, have just completely missed with the next-gen car. They just haven't looked like the JGR we've been used to the past God knows how many years. I mean, just 2 races where they've looked like the JGR that we all know. Las Vegas and Richmond. Las Vegas, they obviously had a 1-2 at the end with Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. Before that, caution came out, and Alex Bowman stole that win. Plus, he got Christopher Bell on pole on that race, and Denny Hamlin leading 30 laps or so. I think it was 31 laps before forgetting how to shift with that new sequential gearbox. And Richmond, I mean, yeah, JGR is like just always good at Richmond in general. I mean, they have 5 wins at the track from 2018 to 2021. They have 17 wins there in the team's 30-year history, predating Denny Hamlin's win there a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's a couple weeks ago now. So they had all their cars in the top 10 most of the day, with differing strategies for each of them. Denny and Hamlin, that 11 team, seemed to be the worst of the Gibbs cars running, so they had to pull a little bit of different strategy. I mean, they stayed out in stage 2, so they can have an extra set of tires. When most people did a 2-stopper to go get stage points, Denny Hamlin dropped from like 7th or so, or whatever it was, back to like 12th or 16th. I can't remember what it was. So to help them get an extra set of tires, which ultimately helped them win the race. Even with their 1 win that they do have, though, like the win wasn't like on pure speed or like the best car. Like Denny Hamlin's win was mostly on strategy. Like you can talk about like, yeah, Hamlin drove through the field and all. Like obviously it wasn't like all luck or something, or obviously all that. But the win was heavily. I mean, it was mostly strategy. You can't argue with that. I mean, yeah. Even like during the season in general, besides Richmond, I mean, Toyotas are just struggling on speed, especially JGR. I mean, 2311 Racing as well. I mean, 2311 Racing, they're just struggling like during the race on speed. I mean, Kurt Busch's finish don't exactly show that. I mean, he has a pretty good average finish. Kurt is higher in points and has much better finishes than the 23 of Bubba Wallace. I mean, I think that's why they brought Kurt Busch in. This past offseason. Kurt's a grizzled veteran. He knows how to finish races. The cars in like the middle of the race have been somewhat equal. I mean, Kurt's average running position is 19.6. Wallace's average running position 19.7. Only 0.1 apart. But then towards the end of the race, especially with these late race cautions, I mean, you see Kurt move up on the restarts, and Bubba either stays in the same position or even falls back. I mean, I think that's where Kurt's experience comes in. That's why they wanted him on the team. I mean, you've got very similar average running positions, but then you got Kurt with a 15.1 average finish and Bubba with a 20.1 average finish, which is a huge difference compared to their average running positions. Then, I mean, you also got to keep in mind that the 23 pit crew just can't seem to get their shit together. They had a loose wheel at Coda that suspended crew chief Booty Barker for 4 races. Booty. They had another loose wheel at Richmond, which cost them 2 laps from pitting under green, and an over-the-wall too soon penalty this past week at Martinsville that dropped him from like 12th to 24th, like the edge of the lead lap. The 2311 Racing cars actually looked pretty fast this weekend. Dare I say, they looked better than the Joe Gibbs cars. I mean, they both moved up together at the beginning of the race. I think they were running like 11th and 12th and stuff before the number 23 penalty. Kurt slowly creeped in the top 10 as the race went on. Bubba recovered to being back in the top 15. I think he restarted like 11th on that last restart or something after the choose, but fell back to like finish like 16th or something. I think like he picked the inside line in yeah, I mean, hoping the inside line would just prevail, but didn't really do as much as he'd hoped to. Even with that, the good race at Martinsville, 23-11 Racing, still had a relatively rough season. I mean, you know it's not good when a former Cup champion who's won a race in, 8 straight years? I think Kurt's won a race in every single year since 2014. And when you got a guy like that who's averaging running in 20th, I mean, it's not that good. I mean, even though they were good at Martinsville, 23-11 Racing was surprisingly good, better than usual. Gibbs was absolutely terrible. I mean, Christopher Bell was good all race, ran in the top 10. I mean, he was the exception. But then you got Kyle Busch, who's had 9 top 5s in the previous 13 Richmond races. You got him running around 15th. You have Mr. Martinsville, Martin Truex Jr., who's won 3 out of the last 5 races there. He's running like 22nd and 2 laps down. Then you have Denny Hamlin, a 5-time Martinsville winner, who led like 300 laps or something in last year's spring race, running 3 laps down and in 25th. Like, how does one team screw up and just miss this badly? I mean, Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota as a whole should really be worried about where they are right now, and they got to change something, because if they want to compete for a championship, they have absolutely no shot at it right now. All right, so now that we're done talking about JGR, which has underperformed this season, let's talk about a team that has overperformed this season and been very impressive, Trackhouse Racing. I mean, just in general, it seems like all the RCR affiliated teams are doing pretty well. I'm pretty sure Trackhouse, formerly Chip Ganassi Racing, uses ECR engines. You have teams like Petty GMS, who have sort of like a mid-level RCR level alliance. They're having a pretty good season with Eric Jones. You've seen him pop up into the top 10 every now and then. Not as much with Ty Dillon. I mean, Ty Dillon didn't race in Cup. Well, I mean, he did race in Cup like once or twice last year. And Ty Dillon not exactly the best driver. But Jones seems to be running very well. At Auto Club early this year from the RCR crew, Tyler Reddick dominated the race before his tire died. And just this past week, Austin Dillon came very close to winning at Martinsville. But Trackhouse has clearly been the cream of the crop. I think Trackhouse is legitimately a top 3 team in the Cup Series as of right now. I mean, it may be a bold take. I never thought I'd be saying it, but they have been absolutely incredible this year. Daniel Suarez is having the best start to a season in his career. And their new guy, Ross Chastain, he looks like a championship contender at the moment. I mean, he's got 5 top 5s in the last 6 races. He got his first career win at COTA a couple weeks ago, and he had 2 straight runner-up finishes. I think the top teams in NASCAR right now are Hendrick, Penske, and Trackhouse. I mean, I don't know who else I would put above Trackhouse besides Hendrick and Penske. I mean, I'd probably rank Stewart-Haas at number 4, Gibbs at 5. They've been somewhat equal in my opinion, but I just give more props to Stewart-Haas since they improved from last year, while JGR has just gotten worse. But Trackhouse for sure above both of those teams. Trackhouse this year has done what Joe Gibbs and Stewart-Haas Racing were not able to do. Make Daniel Suarez contend for top 10s and top 5s on a weekly basis. He almost won at Auto Club if he wouldn't have gone to the bottom, if he would have stayed up in the top lane. But also, I think I just like the vibe of Trackhouse Racing in general. I mean, I feel like they bring a great modern cultural approach to NASCAR. I like what they're trying to do to revolutionize the game on and off the track. I really like what Justin Marks has done with the team, starting it by himself, getting a celebrity like Pitbull to co-own the team. I think that seeing a pop culture icon like Mr. Worldwide is good for NASCAR. I like how they expanded the team when they were going to lose their charter from Spire that they were leasing. They just bought out Chip Ganassi Racing. I mean, yeah, it was sad to see Ganassi go, but I feel like Trackhouse just has a lot more potential, really. They've got a good team behind them in terms of looks. I mean, you have pretty much the best paint scheme designs in NASCAR. Shout out to Kyle Sykes for designing fire paint schemes. And in terms of like social media, one new crew member they hired this past offseason. For those of you who don't know who Cap Houston is, he was a pit crew member on Quinn Houff's car for the past few years, who got famous on TikTok for making dad jokes at NASCAR races. And I think Trackhouse hiring him for PR purposes is a good way to get in the public eye. I mean, you got billions of people on TikTok. I mean, he's probably had millions upon millions of views on his stuff. So If people see Trackhouse, they see NASCAR, they see cool stuff, they see winning, it's going to draw people to NASCAR. I mean, I think that's good for them and good for the sport in general. And of course, in terms of their drivers, it seems like their driver chemistry is pretty well. I mean, they're good personalities. There's not much to dislike about Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain. They work pretty well together. I think Trackhouse is just like ahead of the game. And by the way they're going, they could lead kind of a new generation of teams into NASCAR. All right, moving on. Now that we're officially more than 1/5 of the way through the season, I mean, it's crazy to just think about that. After Bristol Dirt next week, we'll officially have completed 9 out of 36 races, and 1/4 of the season, a quarter of the season's going to be done, which is crazy just to think about that it's the middle of April and the quarter of the season is done. So now that we're like on our way through, I just want to make a really early championship 4 prediction based on what I've seen so far this season. I mean, I know it's probably going to end up changing or going horribly wrong, but I mean, yeah, some of the winners that I picked early in the season in my preseason predictions, you could check that out on my Instagram. I think I put it on my Twitter too. I think I've had 3 out of the 8 winners this season correct. I predicted, was it 3 out of 8? Does the Clash count? Yeah, we'll count it. We'll count it. Joey Logano at the Clash. Who else did I predict? I predicted, whatever. I can't remember. And I predicted Denny Hamlin at Richmond. I can't remember who the second one I predicted was. Whatever. If you want, you guys can go check it out on my Instagram at Dank_NASCAR memes. Be sure to check it out. But here's who I expect to contend for the championship this season. Here are my predictions. Number 1, William Byron. Okay, sorry about that. Oh my god, I sound like an idiot when I did that. I was trying to do like the whole YouTube countdown thing, whatever. So yeah, William Byron. We've seen the steady progress of William Byron each year of his Cup Series career. In 2018, his rookie season, struggled a lot, wasn't that good. 2019, he started getting better, running in the top 10 more often. 2020, got that first win. 2021, he started leading a lot more, won again. And now in 2022, he finally breaks the multiple wins barrier with his win this past week at Martinsville. He's been up front a lot this season. And here's something crazy. He's already led more laps in 8 races this season than he has in any of his previous seasons. And he also leads the Cup Series in laps led. If he continues to run up front, especially late in the race, like he did in his 2 wins at Atlanta and Martinsville, and controls those races as well as he did, and like retains the lead for like 100 laps straight or whatever, I think we're gonna see a couple more wins from Byron. I mean, keep in mind he was also leading late at Richmond, but his tires were shot, and Hamlin obviously passed him for the win. So that's 3 out of the last 4 races that he's been up front in the closing stages of the race. But let's talk some advanced stats, which have shown Byron is like by the top when it comes to like drivers in the Cup Series. He's ranked number 2 in driver rating. He's ranked first in fastest laps ran, first in percentage running in the top 15, third in average running position. And here's an interesting one that I found out when I was looking through the Stats Hub. Out of all the full-time drivers, he's been passed the second least by other drivers, only behind Cody Ware, but I mean, it's kind of hard for Cody Ware to be passed when he's already running like dead last. But yeah, when you're a driver like William Byron and you barely get passed and you're leading as well, like leading a lot and not getting passed is the key formula to winning. I mean, that's pretty much basics of racing when you just think about it. So if he continues to do that and he continues to like not let people pass him and stay up front, go to the lead, I think he's going to be a contender for multiple wins this season. We've seen drivers like Chase Elliott in 2020, Kyle Larson in 2021. You gotta think, will William Byron be the guy leading Hendrick Motorsports this year in 2022? But one thing you gotta think of if you think William Byron is going to make the championship, he has to make it through the early rounds of the playoffs. He can't be an early exit like we've seen the past 2 years. If he can do that and be consistent throughout the season, I think he might be my best bet to win the championship based on what we've seen out of him so far this season. Number 2, Ryan Blaney. Okay, I'll stop. This is like kind of hurting my throat anyways. Got a bit of a cold. All right. Even though Ryan Blaney doesn't have a win yet this year, massive voice crack right there. He's probably been the most consistent driver in the Cup Series so far. I mean, when you look at the metrics, he's clearly the best out there at the moment. Coming off a 3-win season with a very strong Penske car this year, I think Blaney is a very solid bet for the championship. I mean, let's just take a look at stats. Stats don't lie. He's second in points at the moment. He's tied for the most top tens, tied for the most stage wins. He's ranked number 1 in average start by a very large margin. His average start is 5.1. Next best is 9.5. Plus, you got to keep in mind he has those 3 pole positions. He's ranked number 1 in average mid-race position, like where you're running in the middle of the race. He's ranked second in average finish. He's ranked first in average running position, like combined running position, like where you average running. Third in pass differential, like how often you pass people versus how often you get passed. First in percentage of quality passes. He's ranked second in fastest laps ran, right behind Byron. And he's ranked first in the amount of laps ran in the top 15. He's ranked second in laps led, and he's ranked number 1 in driver rating. I mean, those are pretty impressive stats for a guy who doesn't have a win yet. I mean, when you think about just like not winning, Blaney, he's obviously going to win at some point this season. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Just when you think of like how good his stats have been, and just the fact that he hasn't won yet, it's kind of similar to what we saw with Denny Hamlin last season. I mean, it was very good, very impressive on a week-to-week basis, very consistent, very good stat-wise, but didn't win until the playoffs. I mean, we all knew it was coming, we didn't know when. So Ryan Blaney, he's obviously going to win this season at some point. He's won every single year since 2017, and by the way he's performing, he's due to get a win. You just look at the performances every race. I mean, he's just been incredibly consistent. And, I mean, in NASCAR, we know that consistency is key. I mean, well, except for in the playoff system where consistency doesn't really matter. It only matters if you win. But you know what I mean. He's led a lap in every single race so far this season. Besides his DNF at Vegas, the least amount of points he scored in a race was 29. I mean, heck, he even won a pole and won a stage at Richmond, a track at which he has been notoriously known to perform badly. But one of the other things, is new for Ryan Blaney this year. You can't ignore the fact that he has a new crew chief, Jonathan Hassler, who last season took over for Greg Irwin on the 21 car for Matt DiBenedetto. It took him to 6 top 10 finishes in 21 races. Plus, he earned the top 5 when he was working on the 22, subbing for Paul Wolfe when he was working with Joey Logano. I think Jonathan Hassler and Blaney are going to work very well this season. They've worked well so far. I think they're going to continue to put together a championship-level season. Just the worry for them, I explained my worries for Byron about early round exit. Probably the most vulnerable spot for Blaney is just going to be his pit crew. I mean, the number 12 pit crew has lost the most spots on pit road this season. I remember, I think it was Auto Club. I think somebody counted for me. They lost 62 spots or something in one race, which is incredible. I don't even know how you do that. But so as long as the 12 pit crew stops losing spots on pit road, costing them races, Ryan Blaney is going to be a championship contender. All right, for number 3 on my championship 4 potential championship 4, Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott, just like Ryan Blaney, he hasn't had the win come yet for him this season. Although at the beginning of Martinsville, we thought he was just going to lead every single lap of the race and run away with it. But besides that, he's put together a lot of good finishes so far this year, despite spinning 3 or 4 times that he has late in the race. Somebody actually pointed out to me that since he spins late in the race, or has done it multiple times, he put on fresh tires and just drove past everybody into the top 10 in those late race restarts. Chase, he wasn't necessarily running best during the first 5 or so races. His average running position was but he improved his average running position since then. I mean, the 185 laps led at Martinsville definitely helped that. But right now he's got the best average finish in the Cup Series at the moment, which probably contributes to him having the points lead. He's also tied for the most top 10 finishes as well. He's 3rd in average mid-race position, 2nd in average running position. He's also 3rd in laps led and 3rd in driver rating this season. But unlike last season for Chase Elliott, I don't think he's going to get to the championship 4. unless he wins an oval race. That's something people keep bringing up when they talk about Chase Elliott. The fact that he has not won on an oval since November 2020. That's huge. I mean, what do we got? We got 30 races on an oval. I think 6 road course races. But I don't think he's going to be able to scoot his way to a championship appearance just by winning on the road courses. I mean, if he can even keep winning on the road courses. We all thought of him as the road course king, but Larson beat him on road courses last year. He won 3 of them, while Chase won 2. And especially when you think of 2 of Chase's, what we thought were his strongest tracks. Larson beat him at Watkins Glen. He beat him at the Charlotte Roval as well. I mean, keep in mind, Chase also got wrecked at the Roval, but whatever. You also got guys like Ross Chastain, who seems to do well on road courses. He just got his first win on a road course a couple weeks ago. And now have good enough equipment to not just do well on road courses, but win on road courses. I mean, you also have road course ringers like AJ Allmendinger competing on every single road course race this season. Colleague Racing now has a full-time car, so they might be able to set up a car better, have more knowledge in terms of like setting up a car for AJ instead of just racing like 5 times a season or whatever. And you also have Austin Cindric running a full season now in the Cup Series. I mean, Chase might have more competition on the road courses than he's had before. So if he wants to get a chance to win his second Cup Series championship, he's got to pick it up on the ovals. In general, though, if he keeps putting up good finishing results like he has, I think he's going to be a threat. And last, but definitely not least, out of my championship 4 picks, you can't forget about the Melon Man, Ross Chastain. That's right. The watermelon farmer himself. I never thought at the beginning of the season that I'd be saying that Ross Chastain is a championship contender, but based on what we've seen this past several weeks, it definitely looks like a possibility. I mean, he just won his first career race. He leads the Cup Series in top 5s. He put together 5 top 5s in the last 6 races and just seems to be good anywhere we go. Short tracks, 1.5 miles, road courses. He's got all the skills in his arsenal. I mean, I already talked about him before, so I'm not going to drag it on out now, but I think he has really impressed all of NASCAR this season, and I think he will continue to do so, and maybe, just maybe, make a run for a championship in only his second full-time season. Alright, so now that we've covered a couple topics so far, it's time for Ask Stemp. Woohoo! So 3 random questions that I got from a poll on an Instagram story that I put up last night. Knowing I was going to be recording today, so I got questions in, picked 3 random questions, so let's get right to it. Alright, question 1 comes from B. Fraser05. Will we have a surprise winner at a non-super speedway race? I mean, first of all, depends what you consider a surprise winner. Like, if you consider guys like AJ Allmendinger surprise winners on a road course, then, I mean, yes, I think he can definitely win one of the road course races this season. Otherwise, no, I don't think so. I mean, if it was to happen, it would probably be this week at Bristol Dirt. Maybe guys like Stenhouse or other drivers with dirt backgrounds might be able to pull off an upset. But on regular ovals, no, I don't think we'll be seeing any surprise winners this season. Thinking about the next gen car, I mean the regular cars are still on top. I mean, you still obviously got 15 or 20 drivers that you would expect to win. You think about the guys from Hendrick, the guys from Penske, the guys from Gibbs. Ross Chastain already has a win, so we can expect that from him. You got the guys from Stewart-Haas. I mean, actually, I'd be surprised if Cole Custer won a race this season. But I mean, what else? You got guys from RCR. I mean, I'd be a little surprised if Austin Dillon won. Tyler Reddick, I would not be surprised at all. But you got a lot of guys who have potential to win. So I don't think we're going to be able to see any surprise winners yet this season. So anyways, question 2 from Germ Bean. What are your thoughts on people asking to shorten races? My thought is they're stupid. They're stupid. I mean, I'm not going to put it any other way. I'm not going to try to explain it. This is the Cup Series. It's not Xfinity or Trucks. This is the Cup Series. It's long. It's hard. The next gen car is meant to be harder to drive. It's more of a challenge for drivers. You gotta put in the work, race in 140-degree cars for 3.5 hours. It's supposed to be challenging. The races aren't supposed to be short. It's supposed to be a race of it's not like endurance racing, but it's supposed to be like a war of attrition. It's all about planning out stuff for the long run. I mean, You get to see strategies play out if the race is longer. With the stage racing, I mean, I don't know, it kind of like messes up like long race strategy, but it also creates strategy to earn stage points as well. You can't have the stages too short, like stage racing. I mean, in the truck series, you see like like stage 1 lasts like 30 laps, and like 20 of those laps are run under caution because truck series drivers have no talent. Not really, but like you get what I'm saying. Like they just run out of talent and crash all the time. But yeah, anyways, I mean, you see what happens in trucks when you have like the really short races. Like literally all the laps of the race are just run under caution. You barely get to have any green flag laps because people keep wrecking. I mean, Cup Series, obviously, drivers are more talented. You don't have like all those Daddy's Cash drivers. I mean, you do have Daddy's Cash drivers in Cup, but like not nearly. But at least they're actually good, or most of them are actually good. Truck Series, you just have a bunch of people who just aren't good and are only there because of money. So obviously they probably crash more easier. But you see in trucks, I mean, it's just like a shit fest in trucks. You see people wrecking every 5 seconds. You see people getting way too aggressive, making really aggressive moves, taking out other people. I think if you make that become what the Cup Series, if you turn the Cup Series into that, it's not going to be good. Like it's just going to be like, I don't know. It's not even going to be entertaining because they're just going to be crashing all the time. Cup Series, yeah, it may be like long and hard to watch, but like that's the point of the Cup Series race. It's not supposed to be short. It's not supposed to be easy. I mean, it's kind of like similar to baseball. I mean, people are growing. I mean, I was talking with one of my friends the other day who's a huge baseball fan. Like we were talking just about just like the opening season. Baseball season just started. I played baseball in high school. But you got to like really enjoy it to watch. And I think NASCAR is very similar. You got to enjoy NASCAR to be able to watch all these full-length races. So like a lot of the new people and like a lot of kids are like just like, no, I want action every single second of the moment. I want action. I want passes. I want crashes. I want this. I want that. But you're not going to get that from every race in NASCAR. I mean, as we saw this past week at Martinsville, which was just way too boring. I think they do need to fix the short track package. But like, I don't have a problem with the races being long. I mean, they're supposed to be long. You get to see you get to like have people who are not necessarily the fastest at the beginning get better throughout the day. You have crew chiefs making adjustments. I mean, the crew chiefs like wouldn't be able to do their job. They wouldn't be able to make adjustments throughout the days because the race would be so short. Also, you wouldn't be able to see like the difference between a long run and a short run car because they would just be short runs every single time. I mean, you'd have stage breaks or cautions for people crashing every time. It just would not work. I mean, I don't think so. You just have to like, I don't know. It can sometimes like grow tiring watching baseball where like there were no runs are scored or there isn't a lot of action and stuff. I think NASCAR is very similar to that. It could be boring sometimes, but like this is how it is. Making a baseball game 3 innings is not going to make the game better. Just like shortening a NASCAR race is not going to make it better. I mean, it's supposed to be a long game. You just got to let things play out the way they're supposed to be. That's like the point. Anything can go wrong. I mean, yeah, you also have like mechanical failures that could happen. Like some person could like be leading almost the entire race, but then something happens to them in the last lap. And if you have a shorter race, you just have people just dominate the entire race. I mean, if the Martinsville race was like 2 times shorter, we'd just be seeing Chase Elliott lead every single lap of the race. Or you'd see William Byron leading every single lap of the race. It just wouldn't be fun to watch. So, and now going into the third question. This comes from @thekidjc. How equal has the new car made the field? To be honest, I mean, at the beginning of the year, everybody was thinking like, oh, it's going to be so much better. I mean, I wasn't expecting that much of it. I mean, I was still expecting like the top drivers to stay at the top. I mean, you still got like the powerhouse teams like Penske, Hendrick, Gibbs, Stewart-Haas. You obviously could still expect them to be at the top. Maybe just like another couple cars competing every now and then. And I think that's exactly what has been this year. I mean, you think about like the Trackhouse cars. Ganassi was like used to be like around like maybe like 15th or so place, 15th, 20th place team. But I mean, Trackhouse was basically old Ganassi but better. I mean, you see Trackhouse, compared to what they were last year. Now they're like running in the top 5, top 10. They're doing a lot better. Like kind of like what you consider a mid-level team, like Trackhouse suddenly becomes a front runner. You got to think of the number 43 car, Petty GMS with Eric Jones. The 43 car hasn't not been able to compete in a long time, and it's nice to see the 43 car just being up front every race. I mean, not every race, but I mean, and not necessarily up front. I mean, you see me like the top 10 or so, like around 10th place. But it's good to see cars up there. I mean, yeah, that like cringy NASCAR on Fox parody party graphic, but I don't even want to. You don't remind me of that. That was horrendous. But I mean, you shouldn't expect that much of a difference, though. I mean, obviously you got those couple cars who do well, every once or so. But I don't think it's going to be that major of a difference. A little bit more parity, but not that much. I mean, you obviously still expect the top teams and the top drivers go to the top teams, so they stay at the top. But the next gen car just adds another few cars into the mix every now and then. But yeah, so that's, I think, the whole situation about like parity with the next gen car. And those are the 3 questions for Ask Stemp as we approach on 31 minutes of the podcast. So that's going to be it for this episode. I want to thank everybody once again for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate all the support. Make sure you hit that follow button on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming service you're on. And hit that bell to get notifications when a new episode is out. You can also follow my Instagram. I usually post it on my story there when new episodes come out. Also be sure to follow my Twitter as well, at Dank_NASCAR. Thank you everybody for listening to the podcast once again. I appreciate all of you who tuned in and listened, and I will see you guys next time.